conversation around the 2023 general election appears to be taking some shape now. A former governor of Niger State, Babangida Aliyu, says the People's Democratic Party (PDP) has agreed to rezone the presidency to the northern region, despite his agreement that any candidate can contest the election. The former governor Aliyu disclosed this earlier today when the Atiku support organization visited him in Mina. He's confident of the success of the group. Take a listen to former governor Babangida Aliyu.
Of Atiku Abubakar as a candidate and as a president. And the support group has been doing a wonderful job, going from one place to the other, one ward to the other, and they will go throughout the crannies of the country to ensure their success. So, and I'm assured, they said that no matter what type of primaries is adopted, whether direct or indirect, that they are ready for whatever that will happen. Yes. So that I'm very comfortable with what they are doing. In our zoning agreement, that we agreed to rezone to the north as requested by others, but that we had an agreement there written openly that as a result of what has happened, that any candidate from any side of the country can now contest this election.
We're getting somewhere because this is some kind of news to my ears, and perhaps to some of you who have been monitoring closely the development in all of the political parties, because 2023, for some reasons, in the coming month, right here on China's television, we'll be giving you some information in relation to how big, how important, how sacrosanct, and just how critical the 2023 election will be, not only for the president and but for the future of Nigeria and Nigerians at large. So there's so much to it. The race for the seat of power gets our attention. It brings us tonight to the politics of the 2023 presidential race. Nigerians are already speaking about the quality of people they want to see lead them, either as president, governors, or at the local government levels. Tonight, we'll dwell on the politics of the #1 political seat in Nigeria today. That is the presidency. Within the different political circles, names of people are already being thrown up. Let's take a look at some of these snapshots for you, and let's take perhaps get an understanding of what is happening in these political parties. For example, in the APC, these are some of the names that have been thrown up. Bola Ahmed Tinubu, former governor of Lagos State, the vice president, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, governor of Kogi State, Yaya Bello, former governor of Imo, Rochas Okorocha, former governor of Akwa Ibom, and former governor of Rivers State, who are sitting ministers, Rotimi Amechi and Godswill Akpabio, governor of Ekiti State, Kade Fayemi, former governor of Lagos State, Babatunde Fashola. These are some of the names that have been thrown up in the early permutations, and looking at the potential candidates that might come up in this race. Let's flip the page. Let's look at the PDP, for example. Some of the names that have been thrown up: Atiku Abubakar, Aminu Tambuwa, governor of Sokoto State; Bukola Saraki, former Senate president, former governor of Kwara State; Peter Obi, former governor of Anambra State; Bala Muhammad, governor of Bauchi State; Goodluck Jonathan, who spent just about 5 or 6 years in office before, and who has legitimately, some people will argue, that he deserved the right to contest again under our laws. Former governor, President Goodluck Jonathan. Also, Sam Ohabwa, another person who had indicated interest. Another person is the former secretary to the governor of the Federation, Pius Ayim. These are some of the names that have been thrown up. Outside of the PDP and APC, there are other names that have come up also. Some of these are eminent Nigerians in their own right, some of them who have done very well for themselves, including former deputy governor of the CBN, Kingsley Moghalu, former Minister of Agriculture, Akinwumi Adesina, the CEO of Belema Oil, Jack Rich Ten, former Minister of Education, Obi Ezekwesili, and the very Pastor Tunde Bakare, a Pentecostal pastor. Some of these names have been thrown up. But where do we go from here? Nigerians are opening their eyes and deciding for themselves the kind of leaders they want to see. Let's get talking, everyone. We get to hear from all the sides tonight, especially the major political party in Nigeria. Very vocal guest I have tonight on the program. So you need to get a cup of coffee if you need one, get a cup of water if you need one, and don't go anywhere. Stay glued to your TV set, because tonight we dig into some of these issues for you. In our Lagos studio is Mr. Sowunmi, a chieftain of the People's Democratic Party and a former spokesperson of the PDP presidential campaign organization in the 2019 election. He's not changed his looks from the last time I saw him with his white beard. Thank you so much, Mr. Sowunmi, for joining us tonight. It's a pleasure having you, and a happy new year. Seeing you for the first time. Let's begin first and foremost.
Happy New Year to you too.
And take a look at what the former governor of Niger State said. Babangida Aliyu, the one who calls himself the servant governor, he said the party has agreed to rezone the presidential slot in the PDP to the north. Can you confirm that to us tonight?
No, that's very difficult for me to confirm. Typically, our party, when it comes to the issue of zoning or determining these things, that responsibility is usually left with the National Working Committee of the party. To the best of my knowledge, the last thing we know concerning zoning was that upon trying to determine where we'll put the chairmanship of the party, before we were able to produce the chairman, Senator Yoshe Ayu, who is now our new chairman, what the party said clearly was that they have not discussed the issue of zoning of the presidency, and that putting the chairmanship in the north does not preclude them coming back to discuss that issue. So technically, you would say the presidency of the PDP is wide open for now. And if anything is to change, there are organs that must communicate that. One of them, and one of the most strongest of them, is the NWC. The next one will be our structure of the Governors Forum. But if Dr. Babangida Aliyu says they are putting it in the north, I want to believe he must have maybe his suspicion, but it's best not to work on suspicion. It's best to wait until the proper organ of the party puts it where it's supposed to be.
Interesting. I know you spoke for Atiku Abubakar, and interestingly, Babangida Aliyu is rooting for Atiku Abubakar. How does that feel with you? You think that, again, the PDP can put forward the former vice president as his presidential flag bearer?
I think that I've always said that when it comes to Atiku Abubakar, the issue is not really about where he comes from. The issue is usually about the kinds of idea he stands for over the years. I believe that where people come from is an accident of birth, and I also hold very strongly that in this country, there is one error we make often, or maybe a generalization. We tend to assume that there are three Souths made up of the South-South, the Southwest, and the Southeast, and then when we get to the North, we tend to pretend as if there's just one North. Whereas, just as we have three South, so also do we have three North, made up of the Northwest, the North Central, and the Northeast. To the best of my knowledge, the North Central has not produced president in this dispensation. The Northeast has not produced president in this dispensation. The Southeast has not produced president in this dispensation. And therefore, for the PDP, also weighing on our mind very heavily is that in the PDP era, we have only had, at best, 2.5 years of a northern candidate. Therefore, most of the candidates who have been lucky under the PDP have been southern candidates, in the person of Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, 8 years, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, 5 years plus. Therefore, these things are going to be discussed heavily. But like I said, one must not play all the time to advantage. The structure of our party is such that the NWC will set up an arrangement where these zoning issues will be settled. And until that issue is settled, all persons of goodwill, some of the names you've seen listed there are good material, ready to go for presidency. Let them continue to engage the field. Let them continue to consult. Let them continue to persuade the leadership and Nigeria of the kinds of agenda they are building. But when it comes to Atiku Abubakar, I can tell you for free that those things he stands for are still the issues that Nigerians have to contend with. One of them is security. We hold the view that you are not going to insist that you are going to bomb the entire country into submission. If you have security challenges of this nature, you must be willing to look at the security architecture and rework it. That will mean something very heavy that departs us from the APC, at least by the conversation of the president. We also hold the view that for you to grow the economy, you're not just going to do it by insisting that you're going to do contract, or you're going to do project, or you're going to use debts to fund infrastructure. We believe that to open up the economy, your greatest investment must be in human capital and in those things that encourages young people to be able to be the drivers of this economy relative to small and medium scale industry. We're very heavy on that. And then when it comes to national inclusion, where we are departed from them, Atiku is someone who understands very clearly that this federation is under some kind of threat, and the threat may not be too visible. In some cases it is, but significantly it requires us to say, yes, let us sit down now and figure out how we can make the country be at peace with itself, make it a nation that all Nigerians can feel a part of the country, can't free now, discuss the conversation on how we want to be governed. If you call it restructuring, so be it. If you call it reworking the federalism, so be it. If you call it true federalism, so be it. But what is certain is this: we hold the view that for Nigeria to become the giant that it's supposed to be, we must discuss the federation-related issues. How do we want to be governed? Who is in charge of what? How do we manage the power? What kind of powers do we give to the section? When you have a situation where a chief security officer of a state cannot even have a decent dialogue with a police officer that has come to occupy and invade the state, it tells you that definitely, at best, we're deceiving ourselves, we're not running a federation. If we're to be a federalism, a federating unit, then it must mean that we must review it and we must talk about it. When it comes to how we see debt, we have always said, and we insist, that one of the major problems of the APC government is that they have piled up a lot of debt without a great recourse for how they're going to pay it. And because Atiku was vice president of Obasanjo, they were able to pay that debt. So we can reasonably assume they understand that a nation in debt will eventually become a nation that will fail if its creditors ask for that resources.
Yeah. Let me come in quickly here. I can predict most authoritatively tonight, from what we've seen in the past years and the past election cycle, that some of these 5 elements will characterize and determine who becomes Nigeria's next president. One is the age and fitness of the candidate for office. 2, ethnic and zoning arrangement will play a very major key. 3rd is going to be the quality of the character that is going to be put forward by the different political parties. Another thing, which is the 4th one that I'm putting forward tonight as argument, is the fact that ideas will be very fundamental, because in this age and time, people will be looking for those who have the ideas and the sort of ideas that will take them to the next level. That is what Nigerians might be looking for again. And the 5th one will be the character that has a unifying persona that can help galvanize the nation. These 5 elements are put before Nigerians tonight. And I want to put it to you tonight. If my producer can bring back that list, and you've spoken about Atiku Abubakar vigorously tonight. The big question is whether or not these boxes are checked by the man that you're talking vigorously about.
Look, if these parameters you raised are the issues, the capacity to generate the kind of ideas that you need to run the country, the ability to unite the country together, the age relative to the health and the physical ability to be able to do the job and carry the responsibility of office, and the other 2, which obviously I do not want to muddle up because your producer did not pick them up. I'll just say very simply, without wasting time, hand over the country to Atiku. Why? The last time he was in the country, I asked him a very serious question. I said to him, look, you have gone for your medicals in Germany. And I said, I have an idea of the result. He said, how did you know? I said, because I'm interested in this thing. Do you know what the result was? The result was that Atiku Abubakar was healthier than almost every other person that followed him there, including younger people. He's one of those lucky ones who somehow nature has just kept him for this purpose. We're not at campaign yet. If you brought Bukola Saraki, he'll fit the bill. If you brought Peter Obi, he'll fit the bill. If you brought Bala Mohammed, of recent I've been hearing him speak, I've engaged in one, I think his intellect, he'll fit the bill. The important thing is, if you brought Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, you certainly know he'll fit the bill. What I'm saying to you in essence is that all of those boxes you tick, one box that you left out is truly that what are the real issues that the country must contend with now, aside the ethnic issues of accident of birth. Yes, some consideration must be given, but I've just given you a roll down of the 6 zones we have in the country. 3 of those zones have not produced president. The Northeast is one of them, where Atiku comes from, where Bala comes from. The North Central is one of them, where Bukola Saraki comes from. The Southeast is one of them, where Peter Obi comes from. Are you going to tell me that any of those sections that have not produced the president of this country, if you are that interested in equity, fairness, and accountability, shall any one of them not really be accountable? The only sections of the country who have had more than their fair share at producing president in Nigeria is the Southwest. They've had 8 years of Obasanjo, and most likely they will have 8 years of Osinbajo. The next set is the Northwest, where you have Muhammadu Buhari. They're going to have 8 years of the President Buhari, and they're going to have 2.5 years of, Yar'Adua. So you can see where the ethnic lines are. We will be a nation that first of all recognizes that there is time for everything. There's a time when you are fixated on the narrow issues, and there are times when the big issues of who can get Nigeria working almost immediately. You're looking for a chief executive that can hit the ground running, who has the prerequisite experience, who understands what the country is dealing with, who understands the issues, who is aware of what it takes, and when it comes to bringing ideas. Atiku has never come to a presidential contest without a plan. And I can guarantee you, by the time you see the plan he has now, when he finally decides, you'll be amazed at how much work he usually does towards making sure that he can give Nigeria what Nigeria deserves.
I'm just looking at what happened in recent past. Look at the EndSARS protest, the kind of manner in which the young people of Nigeria, who form nothing less than 48% of the voting population. If you do the mathematics, if you do the numbers, you will know that these people don't only have the voice, they have the character, and they have the presence when it comes to voting population in Nigeria. Whether or not they were able to use that in the coming elections is left into their hands to determine. The people from 18 and 35, they hold a very strong presence in our voting calculations in this country. And I'm not sure how much of the Atiku Abubakar's bracket you are able to convince them to go along with. But let's leave that conversation for another day. Let's look at the comment made by President Buhari about your political party, the PDP. There's one word he used to describe your party. He described it as failure. How do you react to that?
When I listened to the Buhari interview, I soberly listened and reviewed it more than 6 times. And I came to the sober conclusion that Mr. President suffers from what I can call post-traumatic stress disorder. Why? The president is locked in the past. In the first instance, you notice he says overthrow, overthrow, overthrow when he wants to talk about winning an election. That's from his military past. I listened to how he captured the southeastern issues, and I realized that no, truly and sincerely, he cannot know what he's talking about. With profound respect to him, you cannot call a party that has given you most of the men that are now milling around you in your party, which you found qualified to be appointed as Minister of Transportation, qualified to be appointed Minister of Health, qualified to be appointed special advisors, qualified to be made governors in your party, qualified to meet with you as senators. If they have failed so woefully, what are they doing in your party? In any case, we don't bandy words with the president when it comes to that. When he says, when they call PDP, he remembers failure, I'll just tell him, Mr. President, look at your track record. What we will say to him is that when they mention APC, we just become totally frustrated because the only thing they signify is absolute, unabated hopelessness.
So you have responded to what the president said. So what I was hoping that you might be able to tell Nigerians is the opportunity for you to sell your political party, because if the president has tagged it, because the #1 citizen of the country, he probably is saying something that we are not saying. If he says your political party is a failure, you've had a share to rule this country. or to govern this country for 16 years. He's described those 16 years from my own inference on that statement as failure. And the question would be, your party said is coming to rescue Nigeria from the APC. And so you wonder if the president calls the PDP failure, can failure rescue Nigeria from the status quo?
Hopelessness will never know what failure looks like. I'll have to remind the president that was in this country in 1999 when the duel of Olusegun Obasanjo as president and Atiku Abubakar as vice president exited the debt, grew the economy, made it double digit, expanded it, made it biggest economy in the world, in Africa. Was he in this country when Yaradua came in, of blessed memory, solved the problem in the amnestic issues in the Niger Delta, got the oil pumping again, got the country together? Was the president in this country when Goodluck Ebele Jonathan became president, when he decided that the best approach to solving the long-term problem of security in the north would be for him to educate them, create more universities, do the design, and even negotiate the monies to pay for this debt, sign the agreement, paid because the Nigerian part of it, wait for the Chinese to come and do that. You see, if you want us to dwell on what failure means, as far as I'm concerned and what the Nigerian people must ask, failure is their inability to buy gari, buy palm oil, buy rice, or eat food. Failure is their inability to get an exchange rate that can allow them to even run their kids to school and do the normal thing, buy pharmaceutical. Failure is their inability to manage the country and keep it united. Failure is their inability to keep the country at peace and with itself. Failure is their inability to even justify to the Nigerian people any modicum of success in all of the things they promise. Anybody can use adjective. That was why I said, and I insist, that it looks most likely that he has some form of post-traumatic stress disorder. Why? Because if you lose an election or you won an election, you did not overthrow anybody. The only man who can keep using overthrow in a democracy is someone who is locked in his military past. And when you look at his attitude to the Igbo questions, when they ask him up, he speaks in such a manner like you get the impression that he has not even recovered from the civil war. And I tell him very pungently, as a leader of Nigeria, one is who is about to wrap up now, what the younger generation of Nigerians expect from you, Mr. President, is to bequeath a country that is a little bit more at peace with itself. Not an ethnically divided country, not a parochially run country,
so
a country that can be a united Nigeria.
Mr. Sowunmi, we need to wrap up on this segment. And I'd like us to wrap up in this way, in this manner. When I was mentioning those elements that I think will shape the conversation to whom become the next president of Nigeria, I talked about ethnic and zoning. I put religion into it because that's another factor. So if you factor it, you look at the religion, you might think that these shouldn't shape our politics, but it's a reality. It does speak to our politics and how things should be. But my final question to you tonight is not minding the political party anybody belongs. What Nigerians should be looking at in the kind of person who will lead Nigeria. Do we need a young person? What kind of young person do we need? Do we need an experienced person? What kind of experienced person do we need? What character, what kind of character would you say Nigeria needs right now to fix some of the challenges we face? You just have a minute to do that.
I think if I was to take anybody from APC with these things they are talking about, people talk about it all the time, but I know what I know. I think I will be looking at Yaya Bello. Why? He's young, he fits your clicks, he ticks your box. He's been a governor, he has experience, he ticks your box. I've been watching the kinds of things he's doing. I watch him in the media often. I read the kind of people who are endorsing him. But I know that he's in a party where they will never look at him. So maybe I'll just say to my friend Yaya, come to PDP. Even if you don't get presidency now, we'll make you a president one day in our party. But if you stay with that party, I don't trust them. They don't like young people. They didn't do much with the result of NSAS. They are not prepared or even willing to reform the police. They've not ticked a single item on the list of what young people want. They're not interested in what the Igbos want. They're not interested in what anybody wants. The only thing they're interested in is their narrow fixation on what they interpret to be the Nigeria of now. Unfortunately, it is a Nigeria that is locked in the nostalgia of the past. Right. Anybody who insists on doing the same thing over and over again will get the same result. Thank you, Sheon.
Thank you so much, my very good friend, who is fast getting out of our own age bracket and moving to the other side. Thank you so much. At least your gray beards speak as much. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Happy New Year to you again.
Happy New Year.